Hello and welcome back to My Own Worst Enemy. We are about to start turn number 2, part 2 of C.S.A, America's Civil War, and we are going to start with the Union. So this is because the USA has the initiative for turn number 2. So we're going to start and decide what are we going to do with these armies. And I'm going to start over here in the east, and I think, let's see. So we have the Army of the Potomac sitting up here with McClellan and his more than anybody else 8 brigades. McDowell's sitting in Manassas still, and he has 7, I believe. Yeah, he still has 7. But the Army of Northern Virginia is sitting adjacent to him, and there are 2 generals in there. There is Jackson, who has 9, and one of the other Johnson's, Jay Johnson's in there with 1, so they have 10. Now I could have McDowell try to attack the Army of Northern Virginia, but I don't think I want to do that because you'll note that the Army of Northern Virginia is sitting in this brown terrain, and according to our terrain chart over here, the brown terrain would give double firepower to the defender, so that wouldn't be good. One other note before I get too far in, I've zoomed in a little bit closer to the game board with the camera, hoping that you can see a little bit better what's going on. It kind of cut out some of the omnibus tracker marker for the US over here, but not a big deal. And if it becomes a big deal, I'll just zoom back out for future turns. So anyway, I don't think I want to have McDowell attack the Army of Northern Virginia sitting in that rough terrain, because that would certainly give them advantage. It'd be better to wait to see if the Army of Northern Virginia attacks McDowell. So I think I'm going to leave McDowell here. And so McClellan is sitting here. Now McClellan has a special rule where he can move instantaneously to a coastal hex between Fort Monroe above this white line to Washington, D.C. And it doesn't eliminate his ability to move. So in other words, he could move instantaneously to Fort Monroe and then move again. He'd have to roll for initiative to do so, but he could actually move again. And of course, if McClellan is sitting in Fort Monroe, the Confederates cannot enter Washington. They can attack it, they can't enter it, at least not until the elections of 1862, where there's a chance they could actually do that. I think what I want to do here, the opening move, is I might want to sort of have Butler. Let's see, what does Butler have? He has 4 brigades, and Magruder over here. Now he's in rough terrain too, so maybe I don't want to do this, but Magruder has 3. So it'd be 4 versus 3, really be 4 versus 6 with that rough terrain coming into play. So maybe I don't even want to do that. And looking at Butler's stats, he's got a offensive firepower of 1, defensive firepower 2. So that offensive firepower 1 is not good at all when Magruder is sitting here with defensive firepower of 4 in that rough terrain. So I'm not going to be attacking with Butler, I don't think. All right, so maybe I'm not going to move much over in the east. So let's go ahead and look at, this is Rosecrans, and I think he's only got 1. I think he was put out there. Let's see, or does he have more? No, he actually has 2, so that's still not a lot. And I'm kind of hesitant to move him anywhere until we know what's going to happen in some of these theaters. Grant, of course, is sitting over here. Now, he does have a veteran with him, and Grant actually has 5 brigades. I could, well, again, though, see, Kentucky is still neutral. I don't want to move into Kentucky. That would be bad. And I'm not sure I want to move him towards the Eastern Theater over here either, because we still don't know what's going to happen in here. I'd like to actually have Grant kind of go down the Mississippi. Now, one thing I haven't talked about are the goals for the Union. Now, one thing they do want to do, if they can, is take the 4 cities with this vexed symbol, because if they control that, they split the Confederacy in 2, and that is huge. So I would like possibly to bring Grant down that way. Maybe that's what I do, is just start kind of moving him that way. And then we have Lyon sitting here. I had said in the last video that maybe we'll have him move into that fort, but he can in fact not do that because it is in Kentucky. The Confederates can do that. So this is a special rule that says, while Kentucky is neutral, that they can actually enter this fort and hold it without violating neutrality. Now, once the Confederates do that, then the Union can actually attack that fort also without violating neutrality of Kentucky. So again, there's not really much to do there until the Confederacy makes its move. Fremont is up here, and he does have he has Custer with him, so it's a cavalry unit. And I think what I'm going to do is actually march Fremont into either St. Louis or Jefferson City. Let's see. I think we're going to march him into, is that a river hex? That's what I'm looking at. So it looks like he's in a river hex. I wouldn't have to roll for initiative there because of the Union river rules. So I may just have him march into, let's see, what would make more sense here? If he goes into Jefferson City, we've got blocking terrain. He would be forced to only go this way or the way he came if something were to happen. I'm also watching Price down here because he can also move up into this area. So I don't want to get Fremont too far away. And Fremont has 7 brigades. That's pretty good. And then I think I could probably also have Custer take the other city that I don't move Fremont into. I'm pretty sure that veterans and cavalry can, and even the Indian units can take cities. I didn't see anywhere in the rule book that states they cannot move into a city. So I could possibly take both of these. So that is an option. And then of course we do have the scouts that we could move those down into the Indian territory. And so that is actually considered a Confederate Indian village. This black one, I think it probably should have been blue. I don't know why it was black. And it's black on the original map as well, not just my map. But I think this is actually Union at the start of the game. So there are some inflation considerations there when we take those cities. So I could have them move down. So I'm going to go ahead and move Fremont, I think. And again, he does not need to roll for initiative. And I'm just going to move him into St. Louis, Missouri. Now that will flip control to the Union. And there's no need to adjust inflation there because that was neutral. Now, to actually flip the entire state of Missouri, I would have to hold all 4 cities there. So we do not have control of Missouri yet. Let me go ahead and mark Fremont as moved. And we pass over now control to the Confederate side. Now I will go ahead and start on the east with the Eastern Theater with the Confederates as well. Now they can take or attack. Well, now there's a fort in there. That is clear terrain though. But the fort, let's see, that also is going to do something to either the defender or the attacker firepower. So let me see exactly what that is. I think it's probably going to double the defender firepower as well. So let me grab the rule book and see. And that is in fact true. It does double the defender firepower. And it says if the hex is conquered by the enemy, then the fort counter gets removed. Now it would be huge if the Confederates could take Fort Monroe, because that would prevent McClellan from teleporting into there, if you will. So let's see, he has an offensive, I don't think he has anybody with him. No, he has an offensive firepower of 4, and we said he had 3 brigades. So Butler would be defending with 2, but he is in that fort. He's got, so it'd really be 4. I don't know, I think Magruder's gonna take a chance here. I think he's gonna attack Butler and try to knock him out of Fort Monroe. Now that would be big for the Confederacy if they can win this. We'll just put a battle marker here to indicate there's a battle going on. So let's calculate Magruder's numbers here. So he's got, what did I say? He's got 4, his offensive firepower. There's no veterans or anything with him, so it's strictly 4 with his 3 brigades. So that's 4 times 3 is 12. So let me grab a counter here. I'm going to mark that he has, his firepower is 13. And Butler his defensive firepower is 2, but that's doubled to 4 because he's in a fort, so it'd be 4, and he has 4, so he's going to be 16. So I will show that he has a defensive firepower of 16. Now let's go back because we have Butler's firepower, not Butler, Magruder's firepower is 4. So we would add that back into this number. So really this is 17. And then Butler is defensive firepower is 2. So we would add 2 to this. So that's going to be up to 18. So it's going to be a pretty evenly matched battle here, I believe. And so I believe that's going to be it. It's going to be 17 to 18. So we will start with the Confederacy. We need to determine how many dice they want to throw here to try to achieve that 17 without going over. And so we know if we throw 3 dice, we can roll an 18. But you know what? I think they're going to roll 3. I think they're going to take a chance here and try to roll 3 and not get the 18. They'd love to get 17. Let's see. So we will go ahead and throw these dice. And that gets them, looks like 7, 8, 9. So that's not bad at all. I'm just going to put these next to their dice to remind us what they rolled. All right, so now we'll roll for Butler. So he's definitely going to roll 3 because he can't roll over. I mean, we could actually roll 4 and try to maximize our numbers, but we're just going to take a chance here and we're going to roll 3 as well to see what he does. So that looks like a 4. I can't see the other one, but that's a 2, so it's like a 1. So that's only 7. So that's not very good for him as far as his results go there. So let's go ahead. So that means, what does that mean? So that is 7, 8, 9 hits to Butler. So I think that's going to cause a rout here because he only had 3 brigades, and it's that's just enough to eliminate those 3. Because remember, each brigade has a fortitude of 3, and that's what we're looking to eliminate. And then Magruder had. Well, Magruder had 3. Butler actually had 4, so he's actually going to have a brigade left. Magruder had 3, not Butler. So that's going to be 2 of his brigades will be eliminated. They're both going to have 1 left. So this may be a tie here. Let me grab the rule book and verify that. Before I do that, let's just go ahead and move their brigades to where they should be. So Butler's going to lose 3, and that'll take him. Oh, let's see. Is that right? Yeah, 3. So that's going to take him down to 1. And then Magruder had 3. So there's enough to take him down to 1 because that's 7. So now they both have 1. So this will be considered a victory for the South because they had more hits than the Union did. So that's going to be according to the rules, the losing side must retreat. Now this is really bad news for Butler and the Union because Butler is out there on a little peninsula, so he's not going to be able to. He is not going to be able to retreat. Yeah, Fort Monroe, there's ocean on all sides, so I believe, let's double check this as well, a unit unable to retreat, that is surrounded, driven into the sea, etc., dies from lack of supply. So I think the Confederates are getting ready to march into Fort Monroe here, and that's not going to be good at all for the Union. So I think they're about to lose Fort Monroe here. And now one thing we do need to do is check for leader death because this is a retreat. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the only way that Butler could die here. This is kind of unclear to me in that this is a unique situation where the sea surrounds this hex, but the rules are pretty specific about the generals and how they can actually retreat. But let's first see if he survives. And so we will just roll 2d6, and here we're looking for, it has to be a 12 for him to die. So let's do that first to see if he need to go further. So they only got 1 6. So he does live. The question is, where does he go? Does he go back into the available pool? Or let me see if I can find that in the rule book. So I don't know. I can't see anything in the rule book here. I'm leaning towards that Butler may be dead as well because it's very specific about you retreat first and only then would you roll for a leader's survival. So I don't know how that's going to work. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Well, the fort is definitely removed, so we're going to take that off. And we know that the brigades will go to 0, so because they're all dead. So Butler's brigade max marker, I'm going to put at 0, and then Butler, I'm going to assume he's dead. So I'm going to put him off to the side for now. And if someone is watching this and you know for certain that is incorrect, let me know. But I believe he's dead because he had nowhere to retreat on the map with his brigades. I could be wrong though, so let me know if I am. And I'm going to go ahead and march. So this will mean that Magruder gets to march into Fort Monroe, and that's going to flip control there to Confederate. And Fort Monroe is a major city that just fell. And so that's going to cause inflation problems. So let me look that up as well. So we turn to inflation, and it tells us, so it says C.S.A. inflation is increased by 5 boxes when a major city falls to C.S.A. control. Ouch. So we are going to move the inflation marker for the C.S.A. It's on 5 right now, so it's going to go up to 10. And then there's some other things that happen when you take a city. I think a veteran unit might be created, so let's see if I can find that. Here we go. Yeah, victories. If a stack wins a battle, one veteran brigade may be taken out of the available veterans box. That's if you win a battle. And they certainly did that here. Also, it says conquering an unoccupied enemy city or liberating one of your own cities that's occupied counts as a win for promotional purposes. So they will get a veteran. They do have one left in their available box. So let's grab that. And this is Cobb's veterans. I'm going to put that into the what was Fort Monroe. And also, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to put I'm going to flip this unit or put a used marker on it so we know he can't go again. Now, also, as I was looking at that in the rule book, across from that page, it talks about forts. And it also kind of insinuates here that the general is eliminated. It says, for political reasons, one defending general who occupies a fort hex and who is defeated or forced to retreat must be permanently removed from the game, as if killed, owning player's choice. So Butler is dead. He is out of the game. So he is definitely dead. And the Confederates have marched into Fort Monroe. Again, we are way outside of what happened in history here. And so with that, I believe that ends the Confederates phase, or their turn of this phase. So I'm going to get all these dice out of the way. And control now goes back over to the Union, which is in trouble, in my opinion. Probably should have moved McClellan into Fort Monroe. That might have been a smart thing to do, but oh well, too late now. So let's go back, and I'm going to go ahead and move Custer into Jefferson. Well, let's see. Do I want to do that? Yeah, I think I do. Let's just go ahead and move Custer into Jefferson City. And that's going to give control of Jefferson City to the U.S. And we will show Custer as having moved. All right, and now we go back to the Confederates. And let's see. And remember, no check for initiative there, because you don't need to with cavalry. So that's one thing to consider. Well, you know, one thing, now that I think about it, hold on here. I didn't check for, I moved Magruder. I didn't even check for initiative. I kind of messed that up, actually. You know what? I didn't, because the Confederates could play the, I think it's is it the Yankee Papers or this one, where if they say they fail their initiative roll, they can re-roll for initiative. Well, let's see if that could even have happened. I'm going to go back in time. Let's roll for his initiative. So he's got to get 4 or less. And that's a 6. So if he played this coin, as the rulebook calls it, he rolled it again. Yeah, he got a 1. So we're going to go ahead and say he spent this coin and was able to do that. So I got to watch out for these. I keep forgetting I have these coins over here, and I got to start remembering that I've got to roll for initiative for these generals. Not cavalry, though, so that was a legal move. And now we go back to the Union side, or the Confederate side, I should say. And I'm going to try to have A.S. Johnson in here try to move into this fort, because he can move 3. 1, 2, 3. He also has to roll for initiative, even though it's a river hex. It's only the Union that gets to ignore rolling for initiative from those river hexes. So he's going to have to roll a 4 or less to move here. And he rolls a 6, so he fails. He's not going to be able to move. And he's going to have to be marked as moved. So we'll do that. And control will go back now over to the Union side. And we'll see what they're going to do. And I think after what just happened with Fort Monroe, I might want to consider now moving Grant towards the Eastern Theater here, because he does have a pretty sizable army. And 5 brigades. He's got a veteran with him, and he is a pretty damn strong general. They may need that over there. I think I am going to just kind of scoot him that way just a little bit. Now, Grant, is he in a river hex there? He is, so he doesn't have to roll for initiative, and he's got that veteran he can take with him. He can go 3, 1, 2, 3. So he's going to move over here into West Virginia, moving towards that disaster taking place over on the East Coast. So that's going to be Grant's move. And now we go back to the Confederates. And now I think Bragg is going to want to try to move into this fort if he can. that would open him up to attack from Lyon potentially. Bragg, how many brigades does Bragg have? He's only got one, so that's risky. If I was hoping to get Johnston in there with him, because that would have been a pretty strong army. Polk can't get in there. I don't think he has anybody with him anyway. Just one, so that's not good either. So then again, maybe the Confederates want to wait on taking that fort. Because remember that as long as that fort's open, the Union cannot go in there. The Confederates can, but not the Union. So they may want to hold off taking that fort. I mean, I could just have the Union march into Kentucky, but that would flip it to the Confederates, and I don't really want to do that. So Price is sitting here, and Price has, I believe, he's got a pretty good amount. He's got 6 brigades. So I think I'm going to have Price march into Springfield. So first he's got to pass his in this initiative check, which is 4. So does he do it? And he rolls a 4, so that's enough. Barely. So he's going to move into Springfield. So that's going to make Springfield Confederate control. No change to the inflation because it was neutral. And I forgot there's those veterans with him, so we will mark him as moved. All right, and now we go back to the Union. I'm not going to attack with McDowell, especially after this disaster. Rosecrans, again, I'm going to leave near Grant. I like having the ability to move them to either theater quickly. And Porter, how many does Porter have? He has none. So we still have Lyon sitting there, and I don't want to move Lyon. I think the Union may just kind of, well, we have these scouts up here. So actually looks like I could take St. Joseph there, and that would just leave the one city the Confederates just took in Missouri to flip it. So yeah, I don't know why I can't do that. He can go 1, 2. So let's do that. Let's move him into St. Joseph. That'll flip it to Union control. Now these Indian units, anything marked an Indian unit can move anywhere in the yellow, the Western Theater. They can also move into Missouri or Iowa, or I think Arkansas. So they can move any of those 3 states and then anywhere in the yellow. So that is a valid move. We're going to mark him as moved. And we do that. And then it goes back to the Confederates. So Hill and Van Dorn down here, I'm going to leave those there for now because I don't think they need to be moved. Polk. What does Polk have? I think we said he had 1. Yeah, he's only got 1. And he's sitting in Memphis. I don't think I want to move him out either. Honestly, the only troops I need to really consider at this point, so we have Beauregard too. Beauregard's sitting in Richmond with 3 brigades. We still have Stuart sitting outside of Richmond. We could have Stuart join Beauregard, or we could have Beauregard join Stuart, but I don't think we want to, well, we may want to do that. I don't know. It's the Army of Northern Virginia, though, I'm considering moving. I could attack McDowell. Now, if I move to attack McDowell, one thing to note is I am using the optional rule for reactionary movement. And so that states that if I do move adjacent to the Army of the Potomac, then they could choose to react to that movement. They could, if they pass their initiative, then they could join in as defenders on that battle. And if you combine McDowell and McClellan's army, that's a pretty powerful army because McDowell has 1 less than McClellan. So that would give him, what is that? That would give him 15, and the Army of Northern Virginia only has 10. So that's pretty severe disadvantage. Well, I don't know if it's severe, but it is a bad disadvantage. And we just saw what just happened here when I thought that was going to go different. It didn't. I don't know if I want to have the Army of Northern Virginia attack McDowell or not. So let's see. You know what I might do is I might have Stuart. Yeah, he can make it 1, 2. Yeah, he can make it to the Army of Northern Virginia. Let's move Stuart in with the Army of Northern Virginia. Get this rule book out of the way. So yeah, we're going to activate him and move him into the Army of Northern Virginia here. And we'll move him here. And I'll put a mark on just him because he has moved, but not the Army of Northern Virginia. Although, I'll be honest here, I don't think I'm going to move the Army of Northern Virginia, because now that Stuart has moved, he can't move with them if they do attack, and that was kind of my intent there. Yeah, let's just go ahead and say that Stuart is going to move into the Army of Northern Virginia. So I don't think I'm going to move the army yet. Then we would go back to the Union side. I don't think I want to do anything else here. I mean, I could move the Army of the Potomac with McClellan out of DC. I could back up McDowell. May not be a bad thing to do. And looking at the map, if we take the army out of Washington, the Confederates don't have a way of getting in there from the south because of these black borders they can't cross. They could come up this way, but they still got to go around to get into DC. So I don't think it's a huge risk to take the Army of the Potomac out of DC. Maybe we do that after all. So let's see. We don't want to take Abraham Lincoln out. We just want to take McClellan and his brigades out of there. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's bring the Army of the Potomac out and move them with McDowell. And that's going to be their move. And I'm not going to move McDowell either. So that's the other Union move. Go back to the south. I don't think I want to move anybody else. I want to move here, but not until I get more brigades with one of the armies. That is it. I'm going to say that's it for movement and combat. That was a little different than how I thought it would go. So let's continue on now. That's going to be the end of the pulse phase, and we're going to go right into the reinforcement phase. And this is where we remove all of our flipped, they call them, markers. So everybody goes back to active. So I'm going to quickly remove our used markers, is what I'll call them. All right. And the next thing we do is receive our reinforcements. And so basically when you do that, and I'll pull the rule book out to again make sure I'm following the rules because we do want to learn this together. But what you're going to do is you're going to look at where your inflation marker is, and that's going to dictate how many reinforcements you're going to receive. And I'm double checking that I'm not missing anything in addition to that. So yeah, you look at your inflation marker, and that's going to tell you how many more reinforcements you will receive. So starting with the Confederates up here, their inflation marker sits at 3. That means they'll get 12 in their reserves. So I'm going to bring the reserves up to 12. For the United States, their inflation marker got bumped up to 10, so they're going to get 14. They had 6. And did they have 6, or did I take that down to 0? I thought I took that down to 0. Actually, I did take that down to 0, but I forgot that through a special event, it got bumped back up to 6. So with their inflation sitting at 10, that's 14 plus 6. Now they're at 20. So that's a small ray of light of hope for the Union there, that next turn they can get some brigades out there to replenish their armies. All right, so we did the reinforcements, and there's no paroles. And so we go right into the second random events phase for this turn. I'll grab the chit pull cup here, shake it around, and we'll reach in here and grab a chit. And it is number 2. So let me grab the events book, which is sitting behind me here. And we will go to 1861, chit number 2. And looks like there's a lot of writing on this page. The USA is going to receive Curtis and Burnside. So let me find those in the box, and we'll get those out. So we have Curtis, who's a 243. We'll put him in our available generals box, and his brigade max marker will be at 0. And then Burnside is a 242. We'll put his brig max marker in 0. And he goes into the available generals box. And then continuing along, the Confederates get Pemberton. So let's find Pemberton. All right, and Pemberton is a 232. And his brig max marker will be at 0. And moving right along, so the next line says let's see, let me get my I should turn the rule book to the special events. The icon translator. Those little icons, it tells you what they do. So let's see. All right. So this is going to be an enlistment thing because it's got the little pin hand. Tennessee and Kentucky Unionists flock to enlist in the U.S. Army. So that's where we turn to this. It says this is an enlistment event. Roll a die and add that number of brigades to the reserves. So this is how we got to 6 the last time that I forgot about. So let's do that. We're going to roll a d6 for the Union and we'll add that to the reserves. It's a 1 because they read the newspapers and they know what happened at Fort Monroe. So there weren't a whole lot that decided to join up. But that's going to take our reserves to 10 to 21 for the U.S. And the next one is Confederate States. Major Caleb Hughes purchases 10,000 Enfield rifles from England. Well, basically, this is another enlistment roll for the Confederates. So we're going to roll this and add the number we get to the brigades. And they roll, wow, they roll a 6. So that's going to take their reserves up to 18. All right. And then the next on the list is another enlistment. It says militia, Army of Arkansas. Add 1 brigade to 1 C.S.A. general in Arkansas. Do we have anybody in Arkansas? Well, you know what? We had Price in there and he moved out. So we have nobody in Arkansas. So that's going to be a non-event for us, unfortunately. And now we have a little starburst pattern, which says foreign intervention. So this is Brazil recognizes the Confederacy. Roll for French entry. Roll a die and add that number to the intervention. So currently French entry is at 8. So we're going to add whatever this is to that. Oh, wow. 6 again. So that's going to move it to 14. That surpasses the British entry. The Confederates are rolling high. The Union is rolling low. That's a brutal one, though. Now, one way that the Union could keep the French out of the war entirely is if they take Shreveport, but that doesn't look likely anytime soon. So the next one is also another intervention. It's King Kamehameha IV declares Hawaii neutral. Roll for British entry. So we're going to roll again, and this will move the British entry marker by 2. So that's going to take it to 12. And now we have U.S. General Robert Patterson. If this is the first chit drawn in the game, it's not, so this isn't going to have any effect. Next one is slaves escape. South hasn't yet realized you can't take the slaves anywhere near Union lines. C.S.A. must reveal the contents of 3 stacks. USA's choice adjacent to U.S. stacks. Well, that's not going to affect us in this solitaire game, so we're not going to worry about that one either. And now we have a star event. Any event preceded by a star is an inflation event. But that's not a star though, so wait a minute. This is a circled star event, so it's a deployment event. So let's read what's going on here. Wati Indian, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, deploy on any C.S.A. controlled hex in Texas or Indian territory. So that's going to be an Indian unit. And let me grab that. All right, and that is really hard to read, that white on this gray. I've said it before, I'm going to keep saying it. So that gets deployed in, what did it say, Texas or Indian territory, but it's got to be C.S.A. controlled. I'm going to put it up here in Indian territory in this C.S.A. Indian village to threaten the Yankees even more. And then next is the C.S.A. Orphan Brigade. So let's grab that. And that, of course, will go into the available box. That'll go up here. And then the next is the USA 2nd Brigade, the 2 U.S. regulars. So let's find those. And I can't find those because I forgot those are already out. They were available at the start of the game, so I think that's just an error in the, possibly an error in the game. So that's going to be a non-event. So the next event is USA Sharpshooters. And this is an event which will give us a coin, I believe, on the special event box over here. So let me grab a marker for that. And sharpshooters say, crack shots target enemy generals prior to leader death die rolls. Play this coin to add +1 to the die roll for 1 C.S.A. general in the stack. Chosen at random. Snipers fired at target of opportunity. Interesting. So I'm going to put that there. So they'll get that. Next on the list is just a star. Now this is the event preceded by a star was inflation event. This is a positive inflation event. Federal government raises tariffs. So U.S. inflation is about to rise here. So we'll roll a d6. And it's going to go up by 3. Our inflation marker currently sits at 10, so it's going to be 13 now. And then there is a final event that's a negative inflation event for the C.S.A. It looks like a pair of suspenders. Confederate battle flag supplants the stars and bars in rebel public esteem. So we're going to roll a d6 for the Confederates and reduce their inflation by that amount. And it's a 1. That's good news for the Union. So the inflation for the Confederates only drops by 1. It's now at 2. And that is it for the random events. So this concludes one full turn. Move the turn marker on the next turn of the turn record track. So we're going to move this up to turn number 3. And when we come back, we will start turn number 3. I don't know if I'm going to break that turn up into 2 parts like I did this one. You'll have to come back and find out. We had some interesting things happen in this turn. The most interesting being what took place at Fort Monroe. And honestly, I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. So there you go. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Consider becoming a patron to the channel because that's really going to help in the coming year as I intend to want to try to get out to more conventions. And I'm just back for Jeff Con, the final Mace in Charlotte. And that was a wonderful time. I ran Command and Colors Tricorn, and I would like to see more people show up at those things. I enjoy running them. I enjoy teaching these games, and I would love for you to come out and see it. So if you can help me do that by becoming a patron, and hopefully I'll be able to attend some more of these conventions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you back here next time.